I now call to order our February council meeting, and I was going to deliver the invocation tonight, but we have a pastor in the house. I call on Pastor Reverend Travis Warren of Spring Hill Baptist Church.
Good evening, everyone. Let us bow. Father, as we come tonight, we thank you for this opportunity to come together and discuss the business of this town, Blackstone. Heavenly Father, we pray right now that your spirit be within the midst, that all that be said be to your glory and to your honor. We ask a special blessing upon this town and this council. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. We now invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I said before, we have it's good to see everybody out tonight. We have a not too bad of an agenda. I think it's going to be top heavy on the front end. We have one advertised public hearing for our second attempt at a community development block grant for the East End project. This time I'll turn it over to town staff. We have Yvonne Wilson.
Good evening, Mayor and
Good evening.
Town Council members and everybody. Today, I would like to share the information about the grant opportunity that the town of Blackstone is going to reapply for. The project name is East End Neighborhood Project. This was a project that we applied for last year, but we were denied, so we're going to reapply this year. The funding agency is the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. The type of grant that we're going to be applying for is called a Community Improvement Grant. And the type of project that we would be applying for is considered a comprehensive community development project. It's considered comprehensive because we have to have at least 2 activities. And the 2 activities that we are going to be requesting funding for, one would be the housing, which is the main thing that we're going to be working on in the project area, and the other is dealing with drainage. So those are going to be our 2 activities that we are going to request the funding for. In order for us to be eligible, we have to have had those, and we are going to be eligible to request $1,250,000 for that project.
Is the local match still like 667 or what was it last time? What's the local match? I know it was like a record amount this council pledged.
If you consider us just matching on the drainage portion, it's actually less. I think we're going to be in the $500,000 range. I'm looking at some numbers. But consider this, we're paying 100% for the water and sewer. So out of pocket still is significantly more because we're doing the drainage as an extra activity, whereas we've got to do the water and sewer, and we can't wait to see whether we get this grant. And I'm going to ask you tonight if we can proceed on with the water and sewer. Irregardless if we get the grant, we still need to replace the water and sewer.
Is that $1 million?
It's $1.1 million.
Can you give us the numbers, what the grant's for, what the taxpayers' commitment is?
The taxpayers' commitment, we'll bring you a final figure, but I believe it's going to be about $500,000 of local money for drainage. But remember, in addition, you're paying 100% of water and sewer construction costs.
1.6 million of local funds and getting 1.2 in state funds.
1.25.
And of that 1.25, what will go towards housing?
About $1 million will be for housing. I'm giving you some round numbers. We're going to give you the final numbers at the next council meeting. About $1 million in housing, about $250,000 in water and sewer, or drainage.
You need action from the council tonight?
We're going to do a public hearing
just
first.
a public hearing. Okay. No action because we still have another council meeting prior to the actual submission of the grant.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Norback. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Any other information you can?
Yes,
Go right ahead.
the
You're
only
on a roll.
other information I just wanted to share was in reference to the project area, because that has been some question.
Yes.
The project area is beginning at Viewbank Street, coming towards North Dillard, and then on East Broad it will be the 400 and 600 block. On Tavern Street is the 400 and 500 block, and then the streets in between will be Hurt Street and North Epps. So those are the streets that'll be covered in the project area.
For the first phase.
For the first phase.
This is phase 1.
Of a 2 or 3 phase project.
Of a 2-phase.
Application fee as long as 4 years. I mean, Church Street.
Like Church Street.
It could be a 4, 5, 6 year project. And so we intend on this being the first phase, and then additional phases after that. We would go down to Harris Street, and we would go more on Dillard Street, south of Gertman and Pool, places like that.
Okay, very good.
Yes, and we have had other projects, like the town manager mentioned with Church Street Phase 1 and 2. We actually have a sign-in sheet circulating that we need everybody to please sign in tonight. And if you're here and you're part of the project area, I also have surveys, because we still need the surveys filled out in order for us to apply for the grant. Thank you.
Very good. At this time, we'll go into public hearing. If anyone here tonight wishes to speak in favor or opposed to the town's application, the town's second attempt, which is due when, March 31st? Ms. Carolyn Davis, yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the ratio of investment properties to homeowner? And what criteria are you given to these homeowners over investment properties?
Good question.
I do not know the exact split. Maybe Yvonne does. I don't know what percentage are homeowners and what percentage are rentals. All are eligible, but our housing plan that we have adopted, not only for weatherization, but also for this program that we used on Church Street, gives first priority to homeowner. And when the homeowner is exhausted, or the number of units is exhausted, then we'll turn to the rentals. But the rentals are eligible, just as the homeowners are eligible.
But it's scored better for us if they're owner occupied. Is that right?
No, I don't think that's necessarily the case with DHED.
Okay.
The scoring internally, when the Housing Rehabilitation Board chooses which houses to do first, score higher when they're owner occupied.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
think-
Anyone to speak for or against? Any other questions? The deadline's March 31st, is that right?
30.
March 30th. Yes, ma'am. Just for the record, if you can state, I can't see you. Hey, Janice. There you are.
I live in Fitzgerald Street, in my parents' house, and when you talk about the water and the sewage, my mom and dad's street has never been in a project. So, how will we do that as far, because I just had problems with my water and sewage.
The water and sewer price quote that I gave the council tonight of about 1.1 million, it's really for the first phase, primarily Tavern, primarily Broad Street, and a little bit over where Philip Arms lives on Dillard Street. Those are the primary areas. That's phase 1. Phase 2, when we apply, would be the improvement of the water and sewer on Fitzgerald Street, portions of Dillard Street near the old Levi plant, and on Harris Street, where Mr. Taylor lives. And that would be phase 2. We anticipate that would take at least 2 years to get there. But obviously with the conditions, and if you look at that picture in the newspaper with that really crummy pipe, that was on Dillard Street in front of Virginia Apparel, the Levi Strauss building. So the conditions there are equally as dire as they are in the rest of it. We got to do a phase at a time if we possibly can.
All right. Very good. Yes, sir. Nathaniel Miller.
I hear you say that you still have the surveys. Are we behind in the surveys, or what's the deal with the surveys?
I'll let Yvonne answer.
No, we're not behind with the surveys. We're still collecting surveys, and we can continue collecting surveys up until we're ready to actually put the application in the system. So as long as we actually have plenty of surveys. We've been door knocking, so we have surveys from some people. We have applications from others, but we're not behind. We're actually ahead of the ball right now.
Yvonne,
Yes.
who did you want to sign this clipboard? Everyone in attendance or just the Eastern Project?
Everybody in attendance, please.
It's a good night to pass out that sign-up sheet. Very good night to pass out the sign-up sheet. Anyone else? All right, hearing none, please continue to sign the sign-up sheet. And we thank you, Ms. Wilson, for your report. And I guess council will formally apply at the March meeting.
At the March meeting, you'll authorize the local match and the formal authorization.
Very good, very good. Okay, that's all for advertised public hearings. We will get to our minutes from the January 22nd meeting. Members of council, what's your pleasure? Ms. Thompson is second, and Mr. McCure's motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We have 2 visitors, and I'm going to add a third and a fourth. One may catch somebody off guard. Our first scheduled visitor, Pastor Warren.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam President, and Town Council. I'm here tonight with a concern for the Blackstone residents. I'm asking tonight that the town consider giving an additional 8% reduction on their electrical rate. The town also, I'm asking that they will vote on a budget plan for this fiscal year. As you may or may not notice, some of the residents here have chosen to use alternative methods for heating their homes. This could cause danger, and it also can cause a lot of problems. Some of the residents here have chosen to turn down their thermostats. They're wearing coats and blankets. That's no way to be in this modern world. Dominion Energy gave you all an 11% reduction rate, which should have been passed on to the residents of Blackstone. I'm not opposed to any business making profits. However, we should never put profits over people. Some would say that 11% wouldn't make much of a difference, but I beg to differ. Anyone, a grandparent, retiree, or disability, or person on disability with fixed income may see different when they are choosing between paying an electric bill or their prescription. A parent, can you imagine trying to explain to their child why they can't pay for school lunch because they have to pay an electric bill? A person that's on minimum wage or barely above minimum wage, using their entire check to pay their electric bill. That's just totally wrong. I'm here tonight to ask the council to consider first putting the people first over their profits and immediately giving the people an additional 8% discount on their bill as well as a budget plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Warren. Any members of council wish to respond? I know this has been a hot button issue, and I know that we had a good meeting, the town manager and I think also in attendance were Councilman Nash and Councilman Scott that night at Spring Hill. And I appreciate your church always being so willing to have those type forums for the public as well as the officials to see what's going on out there. Any members of council have any thoughts or response or?
We can't implement a payment plan in this current budget year, correct? I mean, I'm not sure.
Come to the microphone. At Spring Hill Church the other night, I indicated to Pastor Warren and everybody in attendance that it's my firm belief that in 2019, I can recommend to you that you can start a payment plan. You've got to set it and start it at a particular time of the year. If you start it in the fall, obviously you're going to be in the hole from the start and you'll be playing catch up throughout. If you start in the spring, then those average bills will be higher that you'll collect for 8 or 9 months, and then you'll have enough cash. So you'll build a revolving fund. If you wanted to start it now, yes, you could start it now. I still think the town logically would take another year to do that. However, if council wanted to do it, this is the time of the year to do it. And but I caution you on the 8%. Remember, we're still paying for a bucket truck, and that was about 5% of the cost of that 8 that went back. And
We'll let everybody speak just a moment, I promise.
indeed, it is a bucket truck. There may be some skepticism, but indeed, the town has purchased a bucket truck. It is an electrical cost. We borrowed it from funds we had saved for the fire department, and we used it to do that. And I, in fact, met with Dion earlier today, and we're putting the money back into the fire department funds for air pack purchases, and which he had indicated was 243. So the truth is, and I can provide this to council, we've received our January preliminary. So the 11% truly was about a 10%, about a 9.9% reduction, okay? Everything they give us is estimated, and we'll receive another estimation in June, okay? But it really was about a 9.9% reduction, not the 11.3 that was initially estimated by Dominion, okay? So it's a couple percent less, and if you take the 9.9%, 10% to round up, remember there was a $34,000 fire department. If you remember breaking it out, there was $34,000 that were earmarked for fire or public safety funds. There was about 5% of that was earmarked for repayment to the town for the purchase of an electric bucket truck. And the difference, if I'm not mistaken, from the spreadsheet Jennifer and I looked at, said the remainder was to be put into reserves. Okay.
What is in the electrical reserves right now, roughly?
$1 million, exactly, to the penny. And it took 7 years to put it in there. We're mighty pleased we've been able to get to that point. But that's the breakout of what the actual 9.9% reduction in rates were last year.
I'd like to point out a few things. First of all, everyone here, thank you. I see a lot of people that were here also at Spring Hill. Here's the good news about the town of Blackstone selling electricity. Here's the good news. Not many companies, let's take Dominion or even some of the smaller co-ops, could the consumers call a meeting and have the CEO of the light company or the chairman of the board and several directors show up within 3 or 4 days of the light bills going out. You know, that's the beauty of local control, you know, in a small community, that we can hear your concerns. I know a lot of folks out there are thinking about the end of the month and not so enamored with a bucket truck or a fire truck. I get that. And that's where everybody in this room probably has a good idea what the profit should do. So I know a lot of people here would think that we should pass that savings back on the consumer. I tend to fall in that camp, but there's some times in towns past where the town was reckless with the electrical profits, and it led to our near financial demise in 2011. I think personally, I was a fan last spring, and Mr. Nash, I believe, voted that way to pass on more of those savings to the consumer. That Dominion was, and it's frustrating because, like you said, it was 11.3% when the budget was adopted in July, and now we have found out that Dominion Energy, that reduction is actually, would you say 9.9? 9.9. That's still a 7% gap, though, that the town was making, has been making since July. I find myself doing a lot of the talking. What do the members of council say? Y'all the ones that set the rates. Yes.
It's very easy to try to help people when they're having a hard time, but people are going to have a hard time all the time, every year, this time. Now, our electric rates are less than Dominion or Southside. It's been proved time after time. If we give this 8%, and I'll use that term, 8%, it may be inaccurate, back at this point, all that is going to mean is the next time we go to pay for a bucket truck or something, we're going to have to borrow the money. Either that or we will surrender our reserves. Now, I personally feel like I fought, and with the rest of you now, for 7 years now, to try to get out of the fiasco that we were in. And we were, people don't realize it, but we were as bankrupt as Petersburg. We are now out of the hole, and if we can hold on to what we've got till almost the end of 19, we will have our reserves, or should have, if the estimates are right, to be where our auditors tell us that we should have been all the time. Now, what people don't realize and don't stop to remember that in 11, this town could not even balance its checkbook. They could not reconcile their bank account. They made an adjustment, a journal entry at the end of every day to make up the difference in the figures, the deficit. And it came by mainly, and that's just not entirely, poor money management, and the fact that when we would get, and I'm going to use just two figures, and neither one of these are accurate, if we got a 6% electric rate increase, we would say, okay, let's see if we can get by passing on 3 of it. Now that in itself at one time is not bad, but on a cumulative effect, it certainly adds up and puts us where we were in 11. I don't see, as unpleasant as it is, going back to where we were at that point, when we are so close to the end of where we can budget and budget more equitably. Now, as far as a budget plan, I see nothing wrong with a budget plan, but budget plan doesn't save anybody any money. they pay the same amount because there's a true up at the end of every year. If they paid in too much, they get a little back. But if they haven't paid in enough, they've got an extra bill at the end of the year to satisfy. We are, in some respects, because we pay our electric bill in what? How often, in 10 days we have to pay it?
About 10 days. Get on the 14th or thereabouts and.
We're kind of like, and I'll use an analogy, we're kind of like a filling station. You go in there, you don't get credit on your gas, you got to pay for it. Because they got to pay for it when they put it in the tank. Now, I don't know how to make things whole. I don't know how to satisfy everybody's problem. And it is a problem, but we all have to work toward this. I think the town is with the weatherization projects we're doing. And we're trying to, we've got people who will go to your home to help you make wiser decisions with your utility usage. Electric bill is not, most people lose track of the fact. My utility bill for the month was $202 and some cents. But my electric bill was $144. The rest of it was in other services. So some of people's bills are not in electric rates. They're in other services too. Now, we're talking about going into 2 or 3 projects on sewer, phase 1, phase 2, and possibly a phase 3. We don't know at some point in time when this is not going to require a further adjustment in sewer rates. I don't have the figures, and certainly Philip doesn't have them at this point. They're just not available. But we've got to look and plan ahead, and we can't be, while we have gotten a little bit comfortable, we cannot squander where we've gotten to away, because we'll be no better off than we were when we started. And the $1 million he's got in reserves can disappear overnight. We're talking about one grant here, $1.1 million, with a $500,000 match on the other one, on the other portion of it. So, while it sounds like a lot, it's not as much. Now, I've said too much. It's been too long.
So I gave you more than 3 minutes, Mr. Mocker. It's okay.
I've always been of the mind thinking of, you know, you're saying in 2012 we were nearly bankrupt and couldn't pay bills, but so that's 5 years we've gotten this much reserves built up. And this is why I voted against the budget this past year, was because it's not going to happen all in 2 years like we're pushing, or 5 years push. Now, I don't think personally we can go back in this budget and change the 8%, because I think that money's spent. But I think what the citizens would like to see is that we're proactive. Let's go ahead and get the commitment from the council. Let's get a budget plan, get it rolling. And I can tell you, I foresee a rate reduction this coming budget year, even if rates go up somewhat, because we have that means to give back in the budget.
You and I had talked a little bit about it, and if you remember, in the things that we have spoken of that we spent the money on, or intend to spend the money on for this coming year, remember, they're all one-time purchases. They didn't go into salaries. They didn't go into benefits. They didn't go into paying insurance. Those went into one-time capital purchases, or intended to go to one-time capital purchases. So that same, I don't want to use the incorrect word, but that same difference is still going to be available next year, if that's intended. But that's the beauty of using money like that. We never put it towards ongoing recurring costs, always on one-time capital. And that's what we have either done or have earmarked the money for this year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, Mr. Van Norbeck, and I believe we agreed on this. We have discovered, and the electrical rate, folks, it's funny, I've been mayor almost 12 years, and it's something I still can't grasp, because what happens, like a lot of y'all, you get one of those shocker bills, and you get mad, and you start thinking we got to do something, then all of a sudden your bill goes down, and we all forget about it. But here we are again. It's a recurring theme. But we did discover, did we not, Mr. Van Norbeck, that in our residential rates, which are cheaper for the first 1,000 kilowatts, But my house burned 4,700 kilowatts. I'm not proud of that, not ashamed of it either. But we found that the more you consume on the residential end, you start paying a higher rate, didn't we?
We did it, and I sent out to the council the copies of the rates. They're within $1 difference. I think it was 117 for 1,000 kilowatts. I think we'd come up with 235 for.
We're cheaper than
so
Dominion. We buy it from Dominion and sell it cheaper on the retail than Dominion sells it to their retail customers, which is great for the first 1,000 kilowatt hours. But what I proposed, and I've got to be careful of this because you don't want to come up. I like to see a universal rate. So it's real simple, but in doing so, I don't want the town to take a beating, and I don't think Pastor Warren does either. I don't think any of these people here tonight are saying, "Hey, look, give your electricity away or do what it costs." I think what I'm hearing from the people tonight is, gosh, y'all, like Mr. Nash said, you know,
They want us to hear them.
my Uncle James used to say, "Slow and steady wins a race," and we got in. We didn't get in that jam in 2011 over time. It happened because we built a fire station that was 1.3 million was needed. We renovated a police station. We renovated a sewer treatment plant, water treatment for $6 million. And, you know, it didn't happen overnight, but it took us about 4 years to dig ourselves out of it.
And a bus shop.
And a bus shop, which was another grant project. So I'd like to see us, if we could, Mr. Novak, if you don't object, could we try to study our rate to see if we can get a universal rate that's competitive, that doesn't penalize the town, but also doesn't penalize residential consumers for using more in cold weather.
If we're just talking about residential, it's a piece of cake, because it really is a nominal, less than $1 difference for the first and second 1,000 kilowatt hours.
Right.
If you look at those rates, it was $1 or $117 for the first 1,000.
Right.
And then the second 1,000 was only like $235. So it was a nominal amount. I think an averaging of it on the residential side. The concern would be when you try to blend in the commercial and try to make that all
Right,
work out.
I get that.
And you don't want to end up bringing residential up to match.
No.
You don't want to do that, I
No.
don't think. So, but the residential universal, I think, is very simple. You're within pennies, if not dollars, of 1,000 kilowatt hour.
Mr. William Mitchell, the podium is yours.
Thank you, sir.
You just got up there, just very nice.
Excuse me. What was the money slated for when they gave it back to you?
The Dominion, the difference in what we thought was the 8%?
No, the total that they gave you back, what was it slated for? The customers or what? Was just saying up in the...
I think the town in the budget took that extra cushion, that extra profit, and earmarked it for bucket truck.
No, but I'm saying, what did the Dominion give it back to us for?
They overcharged us, Mr. Mitchell.
Okay, so where did they slated it going? Where you made the decision
No,
where it goes?
that's up to the town to decide what to do with the extra revenue.
Then the people has no say over what happens to them.
That's why you elect the town council.
That's why I'm not going to be here.
But we had a budget hearing. We did have a public hearing, and yes, sir.
How much money we talking about?
Oh, we found Mr. Nash said, I believe it was an additional $200,000 of net profits, and you used the word it's actually income, wasn't it? Income, not net profit.
Each percent is roughly $40,000.
Yeah.
It's revenues, it's not profit.
Right.
Profit is distributed to shareholders or to
Correct.
a sole
It's
proprietor.
revenue. It's
revenue.
Right.
It goes back
Or
in the
income,
same kitty.
yeah.
It's not like we're up here taking a dividend. We don't get, part of that money goes to the council or anybody. It goes back into the system. That's right. So one of the things that I want to say is I think council is a little fearful of going out on a limb, and I won't be here next year. And I see what the manager said. We may be in a position in 2019 to offer a payment plan. But it's gonna take a pretty big savings account to do it. So we'll be in the position to do that. I want to talk to you about the 6 or 7%, whatever it was, that we got back. And we didn't add 5% to the rates to pay for equipment that we have to have. You know, we can't service the light lines without the equipment. What we did was took advantage of a windfall, and we earmarked that money to pay for equipment. So if we didn't, what we've done in the past is every time we were in a jam, we got to borrow money. And when we borrow money, we got to raise rates. So that was the council's thinking, is we have an opportunity here to take care of some equipment needs and take care of some of the other things. We actually borrowed the money from ourselves and actually saved the taxpayer, the utility customer, maybe 1%, because we didn't have to go borrow money from a bank, which has to make a profit, which we don't make profit. So that's where that went. Now, I think, I'm just speaking, I won't be here next year, but I hear, and what I think I hear is, we want to do what you're asking. but it's not able this year. I think in the years to come, we'll be in that position. But we have a fiduciary duty to be able to maintain and to be able to provide power under all circumstances, and that's what we need the $1 million in the bank for.
Yeah, I think you all may be missing the point.
All right.
My concern is, again, that person that's at home in the cold. And what can we do to help them?
Well, I understand that, but we wouldn't be having this conversation if we were buying directly from Dominion. So it's sort of out of our control. You know, if chemicals go up threefold at the water plant, then we're going to have to charge more for water. It's not any of our control. The only thing that the council's done through the budget process is to be wise with the money.
To the residents, it's under your control, because you gave 3% when you could have given more, correct?
We could have, okay, so we could have done that, and then this budget coming up, when we had to pay for this electric truck, we might have had to raise the rates 5% to pay for the electric truck.
But had you not had that, how would you have paid for it?
Raise the rates.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying. So we used the windfall, instead of raising rates next year or the year after to pay for equipment, we used the windfall and paid that expense. That was our thinking.
Let me switch the subject.
There's not extra money. I'm sorry,
That's all right.
Mayor. So profits is money that you can use. You can put in your pocket. You can buy a baby a new pair of shoes. You can do whatever. This is not profit. It's additional revenues that goes in the system, and it's revenues that we can use to stabilize rates in the future. And that's what we're doing. It doesn't look like it today, but in fact, that's what I'm trying to sell to you. That instead of having to raise the rates when we need a new bucket truck or we need to replace, we just replaced a whole phase of wires, and we have some more that are going to have to be replaced one day. The goal of the council through the budget process is to be able to do that without raising rates. So this is a rate stabilization attempt on our part to not increase rates. And that's what we've been trying to do. But we are mindful that it's hard on the public. You know, and gas or heating oil spikes to $4 a gallon like it's done before. That's hard too, but that's out of our control. And what Dominion charges us is out of our control. But we have a fiduciary duty to manage the money and to be able to maintain the system. So people don't, when we have an outage, we have the wherewithal to go fix it, just like that. And that's what we do. We're typically on board before we get power from Dominion when we have a natural catastrophe.
One thing I'd like to just steer the conversation briefly. I think a lot of people in this room tonight are here not so much concerned about the municipality, but the human toll, the family, the households. And I am glad to report, and I believe this is still the case, and we have our treasurer here, and I want to commend Brittany Harris. I had a Facebook Live event, and it was heated, but Brittany was very cooperative with the public, and I believe it's a town's position, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, that anyone that will work with anybody on a payment plan for an individual, especially in these cold months, if someone's to avoid them having their heat or lights cut off during the winter. Is that correct? How has that been going? Have we noticed a spike in requests for payment plans during this recent, cold spell and all that?
We have just with the higher bills, but we've been working with everyone who's called.
Very good.
I would say there's dozens of payment plans that we do with
Right.
folks. In fact, we're going to ask you for another one tonight. But yes, we probably get dozens of requests for those. I don't know the exact number of payment plans that you agreed to during the course of the year, or of the past month. But even in the months when people can't, or the utility rates or the bills are not exceptional, we still make payment plans with folks. Right. Everybody has issues, lost my job or any of those kinds of things. As long as they meet the terms of the conditions of the payment plan, we work with them. And that is a fact, and I know Pastor Warren and Wayman are concerned about it, but I think that the folks that have dealt with the town, when they've had these high utility bills, we've tried to certainly protect the town as much as possible. Typically, we will collect at least half the utility bill, and the residue will be split up over a series of months or a series of weeks or pay periods in order to get caught up.
Do we anticipate an abnormal number of pink slip / cutoffs in the next, between now and the 16th? When's the cutoff, the 6th?
It's in the middle of the month.
The middle of the month. How does that look? Is this shaping up to be a blockbuster cutoff month, or things kind of stabilized because of the payment plans?
I really don't know.
Okay.
But we stay pretty consistent in the 300 plus, so I don't think we vary even when it's cold or very hot.
Pink slips that are in the packet this time were for the cold month, right?
No.
That are in here right now.
Those pink slips have not gone out yet.
They've not gone out yet.
Because those February bills are due Thursday.
Yeah, they've not gone out yet.
But there was a record amount in the council packet this month.
Yeah. But one other thing I also remind you on, I know I play this card too often, because this is a locally owned electric company, right, what you're looking at, folks, is the board of directors of Blackstone Power and Electric. There's your CEO. This council did 4 years ago extend the deadline. It used to be you had to pay your bill the 15th. Now it's the 30th. You have a full month to pay your bill. That was something I advocated, and the directors, the board of directors of Blackstone Power, listen. And the good news is that tonight you're at a Blackstone Power Board of Directors meeting. Now, I know a lot of us have difference of opinions as to what the directors can do, but the good news is that you're here to address them, and they're hearing you. And I think you are saying, like payment budget plan, if you'd have told me 2 months ago, and no disrespect to Philip, but we've disagreed, that he would verbalize budget payment plan. He even told me after the Spring Hill meeting, it looks like it's coming, and that's because we're trying to be responsive to the people.
Is there any way we can ask that the Accountant Finance Committee, at the Spring Hill meeting, that was everybody's request typically, was payment plan. Is there a way we can work with that and try in the budget this coming year?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're chairman of it, I'm on it, and so is Sam, and I think we could probably make it work for this coming year.
This coming fiscal year beginning in the spring.
19.
You're 19, like in February, March of 19.
Yeah, to have it as part of the budget.
Whatever it be in this budget year, this coming budget year, correct?
Yeah, the tail end of it. That's what I verbalized at that meeting, and I think that's
I mean, we can look at it.
finishing up the rest of our goals and activities. I think it's logical that if we're going to do a
But I
budget
think
plan,
the people just want to hear it from
All right,
all
well-
of us up here.
Well,
that we will look at it, and we're very, very seriously. I mean, not just from.
I have one vote, but I do chair the committee, and I'm extremely receptive to the plan. I don't know how to make it any clearer. If we can swing it,
People don't care about the numbers we have in the bank. They want to
well,
know.
that's our job.
Correct.
But it's our job to protect the people.
Mr. Mayor, let me say one more thing.
I'm gonna add one thing. I'm gonna give you another 3 minutes. I want to hear you say one thing also. Blackstone gets a lot of grants. This is something I also say. We get a lot of grants because we always have this magic number: 74% low to moderate income. That means, hey, guess what? We're a middle class / poor town. We must keep in mind that because we're a middle class poor town, that there are people when we send out those bills that are hurting. And we have to remember that. Those who set the rates, have to remember that. Mr. Moncure.
Well, wait a minute, Mayor. It's not like we've directed the town manager, you collect the money or throw the people out.
No, not at all.
We have encouraged him to work with the people.
But what I'm saying is on the front end, in July when it's warm and light bills are low, we have to think about, I remember that when the budget was passed, I said, you know what, if we have a record cold month, that 3%, 11% gap is going to come back to haunt this council.
Let me ask a hypothetical question.
Ask away.
Well, first of all, let me make a statement. When we went from 10 days to 30 days payment plan, it did not change the pink slips or the turn-offs appreciably one way or another.
He is correct about that. He is absolutely correct. It was 300. It's 300 pink slips a month. It's been like that for the last 5 years.
If we go on a payment plan, which gives everybody a new start at go, what do you do when this same, and I'm gonna say 300, and I'm not sure that's right, because I don't know who the 300 are.
Right.
I have no idea.
The number's 300.
When the number doesn't change, is that supposed to reduce the 300?
It's my understanding, Mr. Moncure, that if the customer is not current and has a good standing, then they wouldn't be eligible.
Well, but suppose we allowed everybody on it.
Well,
Just an
I
assumption.
wouldn't vote for that.
Well, all right, but
So,
the point is, that's just like going from 15 days to 30 days. If you go on a payment plan, that just goes another whack. And when at the end of that time, you still got 300 people doing it. And I personally don't think it's going
And
to
something
change.
is wrong with the systems. 300 people, something's wrong between the same thing every month.
well,
Yes, it is. Don't tell me something need to be done about that.
Well,
There's 300 people every time you look around, same 300, not the same people.
It's a number. It's a number. It's all right.
That's what I'm saying. That just don't make sense.
but I'm not willing to raise the rates 10% for everyone else to pay for the people that aren't paying. So it's got to be equitable. I'm willing to work hard to get a payment plan in, but it has to be fair to everyone. You can't ask 95% of the people to pay the difference. It's not right.
Well, the payment plan would only apply to those who want to participate. I personally, as a consumer, would not, because I'd be afraid of that year-end shock where, hey, Billy, you owe us $400 more. I'd rather pay as I go, but that's me. And it's not about me. It's about us collectively, what's best for the people.
and this is the hard part of our job up here.
Absolutely. Listen, y'all the council. I got the easy job.
It's a whole lot easier to say yes and pass
Well,
So
the
let's do
shortage,
something
the
easy
shortage,
and move on. We've agreed to look at it.
Okay.
the budget that was short, I mean, you said it took a long time to build it back up. That was, why I was in the hole in the beginning, because of some town council people made some bad decisions in the day. That's why it was so bad.
It was a Mr. Mitchell, I'm gonna say this without looking backward. I'm a great Monday morning
look back
quarterback.
every once in a while.
It was a situation where everything happened at once. We had a fire station, police station, we had that Pickett water treatment
Someone
plant.
told me that.
It was a perfect storm, but that was not perfect. Yeah. But I'm gonna recognize a few other people. Mr. Green has made a good point. The Finance Committee is gonna look into a payment plan. That's the good news. I've not heard any rate reduction tonight. I've not heard anybody at the council say that, but I did see, I saw Doris Wynn, I believe I saw Janice again. Let's go with Doris Wynn and then Janice Hawks.
When you're talking about a budget plan, I know you're talking about your fiscal year, but when I think about it as a consumer, I think of January through December. And I know February, January, more than likely are gonna be the coldest months.
Right.
So what I was thinking was taking all of that, and taking the average and start paying in January, maybe that and a little bit more. And, to make sure that I end up myself at an equilibrium. And the other thing was, maybe, if something happened and some people got some extra money, maybe we could do an energy share, that's like they advertise on television for people, so that people who have or relatives of people who need.
Want to give.
Could give.
Yes.
To the town, and to pay a few extra bucks to help some of these people.
That's an
Amen.
outstanding
I
idea. We'll
love that
incorporate
idea.
We'll incorporate that.
Once
in our
again, the
plan.
best ideas often come from the people. Thank you, Ms. Wynn. Janice Hawks, yes, and then we'll wrap this up.
Hi, sir. I stand because I am on a budget. I have a budget with American Gas. My mom and my dad had a budget with American Gas. And I heard someone say that you had to be, if certain people you were gonna let the budget be for, you had to be on time. It's just like when the town came up with y'all security payments for people with lights. Lights used to be $25 to transfer, and now it's $300. So if you don't pay the lights on time, that person loses that $300. So when you do this budget, if you're gonna just look at the people that, what do you say, it's on time, you started the wrong road already. Because it's not for the people that's on time. It's for the people that are struggling. There are people that are on a fixed income. My budget for American Gas is $150 a month. It's based on my usage.
Your average, that's right.
And if my usage goes up, then American Gas can change it, but they stay in it because my budget is from October to October. And if I see that my budget and I need to pay a little more, that's my choice.
Right.
Everybody's income is not the same.
Amen to that.
Everybody's paycheck is not the same. Everybody doesn't have stock. Everybody doesn't have IRAs. Everybody doesn't have a 401 they can go and get.
No silver spoon.
So when you look at people, just think about that maybe you're not here today, but maybe one day you may be where some of these people are sitting tonight.
Amen.
Yes, indeed.
So that, I understand that you need to pay your bills, but we also need to pay ours. And the people are the people that make this town. So if we didn't pay or struggle to pay the light bill, if it comes to be $300, $400, $500, and you have to choose between paying the light bill, feeding your 5 children, or having a roof over your head because your rent is $750 or $1,000 a month. Those are the kind of things that we're asking the council to look at and to consider, and that's what Pastor Warren is saying.
Yes, ma'am. And
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Hawks. And the good news, thank you. At this time, the Finance Committee will explore the payment plan for the next budget. It starts July 1st. I have not, any other members of the council want to wrap it up before we move on to our other business? Mr. President Thompson.
I would just like to say that I'm very receptive for the payment plan for the people who really can't afford. I've seen some very high light bills. One of the properties I manage, the electric bill is $800 this month. But it's a good landlord. He said, pay your electric bill and waive the rent. So, but he's an unusual landlord. But he did it last year because it's sometimes, you know, like we say, sometimes it's the houses that need insulation and stuff in them. And so he's taking all that into consideration. But I'm very open for the payment plan.
Very good.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that you would help with this current bill to pay for customers that had an extremely high bill, but you're gonna break it down into a couple of payments. Why is the reconnect charge still applied to it?
That's a great question. Why would a reconnect charge a reconnect charge should only be charged?
Allowing an additional 2 weeks to pay this additional bill, but you still have the reconnect fee and the cutoff fee attached to it.
Is that penalty and interest, or
Penalty and interest.
it's not a reconnection fee?
I don't know about the reconnection fee. Is that still included? If they make the disconnect list, yeah. If they make the disconnect list, yeah. We haven't taken on. I think council had voted on that some time ago, but all the penalty and interest is still due. Yeah, we charge the whole thing.
Let me make sure, not to sound like
That's correct, isn't it?
I appreciate that question very much. What I want to make sure is, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, if someone's making the effort to avoid disconnection, why would we charge a disconnection fee? I mean, I'm just curious.
If you remember, council had considered this one time before, and we had the $12 and the $20-some, and we reduced the cost of I believe, the disconnection fee.
Right.
And the disconnection fee has
Well,
remained
Mr.
throughout.
Mr. Morbeck has the floor. I just, if someone is, the reason we have this, and Brittany's done a great job of going to work with people, is to avoid the disconnection. If there's no disconnection, why would there be a disconnection fee?
I think if you remember, there was a long discussion about making the disconnection list. And when you make the disconnection list, that you have to charge the fee. Now,
That's a council policy.
as a council policy, if council chooses to otherwise do it, we're more than happy to
I would encourage council to make an exception for the next
I
2
was about
months.
to say, would it be out of order to say currently those that come to make payment plan, that we not charge the disconnect fee?
For these next 2 months.
But you have to come and show your effort, correct?
To me, I mean,
If you're attempting to make a payment plan, I don't think you should be charged $25.
Suppose you don't do it.
now if you fail, you're going to get disconnected, and you're also going to get the disconnection fee.
But everybody that makes the list, are they waived as well? Only
If they come in and make a payment plan.
only if the payment plan comes up, and if they don't meet the terms of the payment plan, then they got to pay it.
Correct.
Deal.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion right now that we do not charge a disconnect fee until such time as you fail to meet your help obligation,
Payment plan
payment plan obligation that you've made with the town.
Between now through August through April? Because the next 2 bills are going to be rough, because you're getting the tail end of the cold spell.
At this current time, you only allow an additional 2 weeks to pay the current bill.
Not true.
No, you're on another 30 days.
Hold on. Let me do one thing at a time. Hold on a second. We have as a point of order. We have a motion by Mr. McCure for those who are making payment plans and meeting their obligation, there will be no disconnection fee through the month of April. And Mr. Green is seconding that motion. Any further discussion? I'm gonna get back to
make
you.
it clear, that's for those that attempt to come in and have a payment plan set up.
Yes.
Correct? Make it
Yes.
for 2 months.
Next 2 months.
The bill that we currently have.
That's gonna go through May, so I just want, because they'll get the bill April 1st.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think through May is, I think for the first 2 months, for the month current and this next bill.
For the next 60 days.
The bill that is due Thursday or tomorrow.
Right. Thursday.
And then the month after that.
Next one. Two billing months.
Call for the question.
All right. All in favor of Mr. McCure's motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? More good things. 7-0. Yes, there was another point you had. I'm sorry. You were talking about the 2 week two-week period.
Allows you 2 weeks to pay your current bill. I've been able to split it in half, but it's only giving me an additional 2 weeks to pay it. It says I have to pay the balance, March 14th.
Did you come in and speak with the
My
treasurer?
husband came in.
Okay.
Wait, hold on just a minute here now. The council has given the town manager the latitude to work these payments out, and it doesn't need to be back and forth here. You're free to meet with him. We've been through this ad nauseum now, and we need to move on. Seek him out, and if you don't get the answer you want, then come see us.
Is that?
My lights be off then, I'll be in the dark. If I can't pay the bill now, what makes you think I can pay it in 2 weeks?
I have no idea, but that's why the manager.
Everybody that's in here. If they can't pay an electric bill now, but you get an additional 2 weeks from tomorrow to pay it, what makes you think they can come up with that extra money?
Ma'am, I have no idea.
Why don't we agree on this? Why don't we agree on this? Why don't we have, by tomorrow morning, if we could reach out to her and make sure we're on the same page with the 2 weeks? I really do believe, ma'am, that we want to work with you, and I don't think we would cut lights off anywhere if anyone's making an effort. I think that's the will of this council has been clear tonight on that regard, I believe.
Oliver, his last name.
Oliver? Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver.
Thank you.
Folks, thank you for coming. I want you to stay. We've got a few other items to take care of tonight. Thank you for coming out. Our next scheduled visitor is Jerry Cole with a parade permit. I believe it's an Easter parade. Is that right? Or Easter? Good to see you.
Good evening,
Good
councilman and councilmen and women. Yes, last year we did the Good Friday Easter walk, and we carried the cross all over town, and we're going to do it again this year with your permission with the permit. And we started Good Friday, which is the 30th of March, and we start that morning and start on Crenshaw, leave from there and end up all over town and cross section through town, and end up in the park that afternoon or that evening about 5 o'clock in Sea Park with a little short service there for Easter Good Friday.
Mayor, the permit's in order. I think it's a great cost. I move that we approve the permit as presented.
Mr. Green has moved. Mr. Tucker has seconded. This will be with police escort, though, for the safety of those carrying the cross.
That's correct. I've been coordinating with the
Very good.
police secretary because he's been sick. So.
That's right. Very good. All in favor of Mr. Green's motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, I'm just going to comment real quick on that last subject. I work with HELP in Blackstone, and Raymond's a member of our HELP group too. And I'd just like to comment. I am currently on Southside, so I am on a budget plan. So that budget plan works good. I've been on it for 20 years, and I tell you who's going to benefit the most is people that are on like retirement income and pay the bills and discipline themselves to pay the rent and the electric bill. Those two important bills, which are very important. And maybe drugs, because they probably help with that too. But those are main people that are going to benefit. And like Philip said, the summertime when it's spring, that's going to be the best time to get on it because the rates are going to be low, and you'll be getting income in more than they'll be paying. So they'll be paying toward the
build up a fund that everybody can benefit from that.
So where mine works with Southside is you pay they used to do it once a year and adjust it, but rates have kind of fluctuated up and down with the different. Fuel costs. So now they do it twice a year. So every 6 months, they, whatever the computer does, they bring it up or down to regulate your costs. So it's simple because it just comes out the same every month. Right. And one thing that will do is I know you mentioned, the shocker bill, which was last month. Right. You won't have that shocker bill for those people that are paying flat, so they won't see that big rate. They'll just see the same rate coming up every month. It might be adjusted next month, but it's not going to be a $200 shocker. It might be $20, $30 adjustment. So I think that I would encourage y'all to consider that this spring on that budget bill, because that would be a good helpful thing for those that are making a big effort to pay the bill and trying to get their most important things. And we do have a budget class every second Tuesday of every month. So if anybody wants to come, we try to help people. And those are two things. And the other thing is, Sammy was talking about the rainy day fund. We try to teach and preach that that's good to save a little bit of money, whether it's $5 a month or $5 a week. Put a little bit away for that rainy day and that emergency. So that's good policy, I think, for the town to have a rainy day fund. So I just want to comment on. Thank you,
Mr. Cole. What good words and well said. That was all the scheduled visits we had, but I did have a matter, and I talked to the town manager today about a recent project the town sought bids on, and there was, you want the...
Yeah, let me get the bid.
We want to, I know this town council always wants to shop local when it can, and...
I'll do my best to explain it. Dan Martin couldn't be here tonight at basketball practice. The guys actually collected the bids. Jason Stokes and Dan got 3 bids for the materials for the new pole shed that's intended to be built behind the gas pumps. If you're familiar with the Old Town Shop, we're abandoning or moving out of that, and so we were wanting to build a new structure. Council had approved that. Jason went out and got 3 prices, as our procurement policy requires, from Cumberland Building Supply, Bevel's Hardware, and from Cambridge Supply. And I think Cambridge universally has agreed that it is the higher bid. Between Bevel's and Cumberland, we're very close. In fact, the bid prices that we got, actually in writing back, were $78 different on a $16,000 bid. Okay. Dan asked me what to do, and I said, if all things are equal, and we have to follow the procurement policy. That doesn't please me, much to in defiance of what I've been told. The town does not want to buy out of town. Okay, it is our job to try to encourage in town. Now, in meeting with Robbie this morning, Robbie indicated that there were some materials where he had bid one type of material and Cumberland had bid a different type of material. And I think after Jason and Dan looked at it, Dan called me and he believed there is indeed one item that is a class 1 or a type 1 piece of lumber versus a type 2 piece of lumber. I have called Cumberland Building Supply. We had issued them a purchase order and asked them to stop the bid and to hold everything. At this point, the materials that they have ordered, they are requiring the town to pay for those. I believe those are the 8x8 posts and the trusses. Other materials can be swapped around, changed around, however council wants to do it. I think there is one item that Jason does believe he could rebid on, but we have already ordered certain materials, but not all the materials, and I think the folks at Cumberland Supply would be willing to not bid on the other materials other than what we've already, they've already had delivered.
So the total difference in the price on estimated $16,000 project was $78.
$78. Now,
we've confronted Tessie before about this, I believe.
We've talked to Tessie, so the record is clear.
It has to be if they're a responsible bidder, and they're the lowest. Right.
If it is the lowest responsive. Now, if we have one material that is a type 1 versus a type 2 lumber, admittedly, Dan did tell me he was at basketball practice tonight trying to explain it to me, then we need to go back and take a look at that. But it was $78 difference, and the gentleman with the electric department who worked for me, who I entrust to do these kinds of things, they went out and got the bids, and if it is council's intention, I just say you guys are in a hell of a spot tonight because you want to do right, you want to do well for the local businesses, you want to do as much as you can for local business, as does staff. But $78 is the same as $1. And if we can split it up, if we can do some other things to try to get some more business in here, or as Robbie suggested, we go to EVA, which we really don't use that much. EVA is a state bidding process. We buy vehicles on it. It's about the only thing that we've ever, that I'm aware of, that we've bought consistently on EVA. There may have been items like toilet paper, or hand towels, or something like that periodically.
What led to the discrepancy? Why do you think why do you think that Cumberland submitted a price on X quality, and then Bevel submitted a different?
I don't know. I was not involved in it, but I think Jason has admittedly said, I think that there is a difference, that they bid on one thing and they bid on a different. I think Robbie had a list where he had marked off a few things, but Jason does believe there is one that is,
Well, I mean,
where the type 1 versus a type 2.
minus the fact that Cumberland won't let us back out anything, then it would be a simple rebid, I would think.
Right. The bid was awarded to the low bidder on what, Thursday or Wednesday of last week?
Late last week, yeah.
My question, I've asked this again, and like I said, I want to assure everybody, there's no doubt in my mind, this man right here and town staff wants to shop local, no doubt about it. Did the town, when it sought or issued the request for bids, do so in writing or just do so on the phone?
I don't know. I assume it was a phone call. I think Jason went down and spoke to the folks at Bevel's at some point. He may have done the Cambridge and the Cumberland over the phone. I don't think he physically drove over to Cambridge or physically drove over there.
Any specifications on this lumber in the bid that you know of?
I don't. I think he had a list perhaps written down of what he wanted to do. Robbie can probably tell you he was there. I was not.
I'm not to pick on y'all in the audience, but how were y'all notified of the opportunity to bid on this?
Jason came down and talked to us about bidding the lumber, but we did stress to him that we were quoting #1 lumber. It costs more, and we asked him when he goes to get the other bids to make sure he compares apples to apples. We thought we were on the same page. But
So what I'm asking you guys to do is for me to, I have to purchase that which we have purchased from Cumberland. And they've already ordered it. We're going to buy those 8x8 posts and the trusses, I believe, from Cumberland, whether we choose to or not at this point. The other material, I think Cumberland has agreed that they would back out and let Bobby give us the pricing on that, and we'll do a competitive purchase or look at the individual line items for those other materials and move forward.
Any members of the council have any comments? What percentage are we talking about as far as the overall project? Cumberland's getting, I'm just curious, X amount of the...
I think it's those 8x8 posts, I think, were a pretty good chunk of it, $2,500.
And the 8x8 posts are almost $7,000.
Less than half.
Okay, okay.
And that's just for those 2 items.
If you guys can advise, perhaps, I think EVA is the solution. I would like very much what Robbie said today. They're competitive on EVA. I think Eric, not so much on lumber.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Would this not likely result, if we went with EVA now and stayed with it, would this not likely result that we're doing less local business?
Well, I think Robbie claims they're pretty active on EVA, that he sells quite a bit on EVA.
You know, I'm just...
He's thinking beyond Bevel's. Mr. Mercury's thinking...
Tires and
right.
everything, you know.
Yeah, I mean, anything that we can get competitive pricing, so everybody knows, anything we can find a competitive price between vendors in the town of Blackstone, we buy in Blackstone. Okay?
I know that.
But we also, I mean, we also got to remember our citizens. I mean, we've been hearing electric bills, so we always have to go with the cheapest price. But I'm of the mindset, let's go ahead. We've got to get what we've got to get from Cumberland.
I got to.
Reissue the bid tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. In writing.
And send it to Cambridge as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely we shall.
I don't mean
And check even.
I don't mean to admonish you, but I'm fatigued with telephone bids. I don't understand. I don't understand why we're not formally requesting a bid so there's no ambiguity in what we're getting. I don't understand. I mean, we with emails and fax and don't use postal service, but there's a way that we can get in writing to someone what we're asking, the terms, you know, how you gonna pay for it, the whole 9 yards.
It protects the town from criticism. What I like the written word is there's never any ambiguity. It's always, it's not no he said, it's here it is.
Purchase order itemized.
I don't think so, no. I think it's a lump sum with the estimate attached, the 3 bids attached to it.
You should set a certain amount, over a certain amount, you have to go out on the bid.
That's correct. A certain dollar thresholds that the locality must, that's right.
It does.
I would be remiss, and I know that Robbie and Bobby do not like a lot of fanfare and attention, but you're in these chambers, and I want to stress to you, I tell everybody, Mr. Daniels, you are the Director of Tourism for Blackstone, which you do all year long, but especially those magical months of Christmas. There's no way to figure the true dollar value of what your store and your love for those trains and for children does for our community. So I'm not going to let that opportunity pass without telling you that. To me, it just sounds cringeworthy that on a $16,000 project, $78 kept them from getting the bid.
Yeah.
It's cringeworthy,
But
but it's legal. I know.
But
Let's put
we
that
didn't
in-
know at that point the grade lumber difference.
Right.
So at this point, I mean, do you need a motion to say? I mean, I think.
I think you know what we intend on doing. You've authorized the project. You've authorized the expenditure. We'll
But Mr.
fix
Green,
it.
I think, Mr. Green may want to make a motion about getting written bids from now on.
That's coming for certain.
If not, we will get into this.
Listen, I tell you what.
Each and every bid we put.
Well, that's what I listen. There's no bigger Daniel fan than me, and they know it. But let's get away from the $78. It doesn't matter if it was $1 or it was $1 million. The fact of the matter is, I think the town has seeked these bids poorly and handled the situation poorly, and for that reason, I will make a motion that council rejects the bids that were given to us, honors the purchase order to Cumberland for the items that they special ordered, and we rebid the project.
The entire thing?
With specificity.
Whatever's left.
Whatever's left. Fair enough.
With
Good deal.
specificity, in writing.
Fair deal.
Do a written RFP.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Scott has seconded Mr. Green's motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
To be honest, I don't know if it was an oversight on anybody, and I don't think it was Phillips' fault. I think it was just one of those things where you look at the total on the bottom and you
No, but so the record will reflect. When I ask our employees, Jason, who's a great guy, to do this, I have his back and I trust his judgment. And when Jason comes back to me and said, yep, there is one, I trust how he bid it. It was done fairly. There was no underhandedness. There was no malicious intent. So everybody knows Jason did a great job above and beyond what Jason's required to do as an electric department guy.
Well, let me make sure you understand my position. I want to be abundantly clear with you. I
Always.
don't see any malice here. I don't see anything besides a little bit of poor judgment. Now, on the other hand, you got these guys doing something that's out of their comfort zone.
Correct.
And we just need to learn from this mistake and move forward. So I move that we augment our current procurement process to include a written proposal on each and every item over $100.
Will the over $100?
$100.
Specs.
Will the finance committee help me put that together?
It is so referred. It is so referred.
Thank you.
Mr. Green has moved. You want to refer that to committee? Or you want to go
I
move?
can do that. I'll send my motion.
I would like to see that dollar figure revised. $100 is
Tedious.
too little because, that covers very little these days.
500 to
I think
1,000?
all Ben's asking is that if we go to get a bid,
I
let's
like
have it
it.
on a piece of paper and hand it to him and say, this is
I
what we
like
want.
what he's saying, but
I think that's all.
Jason did have a handwritten sheet. Now, I know we went to Bevel's first, and he told him what he wanted, but I know Dan and him said, write down exactly what Bevel said, and he may have faxed it. It may not have been a very formalized,
Right.
typed up spec like what we put in the paper.
Right.
I do, in Jason's defense, like, I didn't send it myself, but I'm pretty sure he sent that handwritten sheet now, so I don't know if that helps with Cumberland, because he did say number one, you know, so, but I don't know. I just know I saw the handwritten sheet, and he had said this is what I sent to
Right.
both of them. I don't know if he presented it to them, so there's still some.
Well, what I'm hearing, Jennifer, is that Cumberland is happy to unload the product that they special ordered, and then they're willing to give us a hall pass. I say we take it and be grateful for it, and we do what we can do to get this business back into town. I would ask that the council would give us a little latitude here and let the finance committee meet with the town manager and find out what is the appropriate figure. I just threw $100 out there because I just don't want this to happen again.
Right.
I don't want our merchants to be put in a bind. I don't want this council to be put in a bind on something that we can put in writing and avoid everybody kind of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I don't want that moment. I want to celebrate that we've got local businesses that can provide our needs with construction materials or with every other thing we can do. So that's what I want to do, and we'll have, and I make a commitment to the council. We'll have you an updated report the next meeting. As soon as we get something in writing, that we like, we'll send it. We'll email it to the council, and we'll make this go away. That's my.
And it's directed to your committee, and we appreciate that, Chairman Green, on the finance committee. Very
Mr.
good.
Green, real quick, before, I call and order the propane, the diesel, and the fuel for the pumps and for the bus shop and all. And I do call, and I get 3 quotes, and I specify 8,000 gallons of diesel.
Right. I don't have a
But
problem with that.
can be-
I don't have a problem with that. The
That's like
problem,
$16,000,
but
$20,000 once the
okay,
price
but
comes
you
in,
know
so I
what?
just wanna-
A gallon of propane is a gallon of propane. It's like an aspirin. An aspirin is an aspirin. If it's got Bear on it or Walmart on it, it's still an aspirin. That's different. But when we start talking about different grades of lumber, or Dan's going out here and buying, 12-3 cable instead of 6-2 cable, I mean, it's big. It's a big difference. There's ambiguity, and I want to avoid the ambiguity.
Good question,
okay?
Madam Clerk.
And please let's put that in.
It will be hugely helpful if we can sit down and specify everything down to tires, all that kind of stuff, because we have an amazing amount of restiveness with tires as well in Blacksburg.
Right.
The council has voted on doing that. There are so many more things, okay? But I don't want to get the dollar figure so low that we end up having to go.
It costs you more money. Sometimes seeking bids, you spend all day sitting writing bid procurement.
Well, forgive me for the reckless number. I'm just frustrated.
The spirit is correct, though. The spirit of his
All right.
motion.
That's taken care of.
All right, let's move on, folks. I killed the 8:30 adjournment time, didn't I, folks? Our fourth visitor is not. I just happen to. I believe I don't have my glasses, but I believe I see the new commander for Pickett, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Gravely. Welcome. Is this your first town council meeting?
Yes, sir.
Well, welcome to Blackstone.
I'll be your last, Colonel.
Good to see you. Good to see you. We appreciate everything you and your predecessor have done, and keep on doing. Thank you so much. Anyone else who'd like to address council at this time before we get into the meat of our agenda? And we're going to flow here now. Seeing no more, we have our fire chief. And Chief, before you get to your report, I want to bring up one thing. The Chief Tomer and I have been alarmed, pardon the pun, by the number of recent fires in renter-occupied dwellings that do not have smoke detectors. Does our ordinance on rental property require that the landlord put in the smoke detector, or does it not? I honestly do not know the answer.
The answer is yes. Building code, in fact, requires a fire. It does not require somebody to put batteries in it.
Right.
I don't know how we can force that, but the building code requires there to be smoke detectors.
Pickett Court last night, Pickett Court's, or was it Saturday, Sunday night, grease fire.
Last night.
No smoke detector.
All three of our kitchen fires in the past 3 weeks were rental properties with no smoke detectors.
But I would like to add, the good part is the fire department provides free smoke detectors for everybody in Blackstone.
Even if it is a landlord.
Even if it's a landlord situation, they can coordinate with Jennifer Daniels. She'll write down names, and during the day, anybody that needs a smoke detector, they are free. And the town can, through the fire department, we provide, fire department is really their initiative, and there will be free smoke detectors, always have been. I can't say always. In recent memory, there always have been free smoke detectors. Anybody that wants one, please come and give us a name or email Jennifer, and we will make sure that those are available.
That's the good news. I don't want to seek a pound of flesh when somebody's lost their, had damaged their property, but what are we going to do about the landlords that did not provide a smoke detector? What can we do and what will we do?
I don't know what we will do, but what we can do is go back and look at the rental inspection program that was dropped. Gosh, I don't know. Jennifer Beckett decided that she didn't have time to do it at some point, and we never really have picked it up. Now that we have a full-time housing person, Ms. Jackson Wilson has indicated the beginning in April, once we have, and I think we told folks at Spring Hill, that once we get this East End thing done, that will be one of the things we're going to need to do.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, Mr. Chief Tomer, go ahead with your report.
Before you move on, can I ask a question? And sometimes it's probably a dumb question. So it's covered in the building,
It's in building code, yeah.
Building code.
Mhm.
Do we have any latitude over that? I know we're a building rule state. Is that off limits to us?
Nottaway County has a building effect.
In Nottaway County, we'd have to go to the county official. None of us are trained. I'm not certified.
I'm saying, could we ask, or do we have the authority to change it to be a working smoke detector? And